Alright, hello everyone. Hello one, hello all. It's the final stream of the year. Are you ready? And it's also like just 1 week until Christmas. Woohoo. Are you excited about this information? Yeah, boy am I ready to, I mean, I love y'all. I am ready to take my break though. You might have noticed on the Kirby stream if you were there that, I have no gas left in the tank, and I am just about out of topics to discuss. So thankfully, you know, while maybe in some aspects it's a little lame to have a reaction stream as the last stream of the year, it is also good for me, because boy do I not have a well of things to draw from unless I was actually watching someone else's content. Thankfully though, we're doing chemistry today, so like, I know what to talk about, roughly speaking. Forgot this was the final one, no. Oh no! Well, hey, at least you made it to the final one and didn't get surprised by a sudden lack of Crash Icarus content. That would be just, I don't know, a really bad fate. One worse than death, perhaps. But yeah, we got 2 videos in the queue today. I decided instead of being ambitious to be like, well, let's put a grab bag of 4 possible things we'll take a look at. I was like, well, I'm realistically only gonna have time for 2. And it's crazy, like, all of a sudden, like, it's just still funny to me how in October, I didn't really have any chemistry stuff to react to, and I hadn't for a couple of months. Like, the people I watch hadn't put anything out. And then all of a sudden, throughout October, people put out a lot of stuff. I caught up a little bit in November, and then they just kept putting out more stuff throughout November, December. And it's like, oh my god, where did all this come from? Now I actually have, like, a backlog to go into the new year with, which is not a bad thing. I now can actually incorporate chemistry reaction streams a little bit more regularly now because I have a backlog to go through. But it is still just very sudden where it's like, okay, Nile Red and his alt account now have, like, you know, he just did his liquid nitrogen video. Now he has making an apple taste like anything, and he also has, like, making super beer. And now all of a sudden, Explosions&Fire not only pumps out, like, pretty cool main channel video, and now also has what we'll be watching today, a silicon carbide synthesis, which that's going to be interesting. I think he's going to be using the death furnace from China that he ordered last time. So good one for him for using a piece of equipment more than once, more than what Nile Red can usually say. But it will be exciting to see him probably turn something up to like 2,500 Celsius in his backyard with like shitty water cooling equipment, and just seeing how that goes. I'm excited. I hope y'all are. Oh right, I need to do one more thing. I always forget about this. I always forget about the sad existence of liking my own posts, my own going live posts on my socials before I get going. Honestly, I've been feeling like just almost giving up on my socials lately, just because it's clearly not going anywhere, but like there's also no point in not doing it either. That's just my own defeatism getting in my own head, but that's not important right now. What is important is that we can look at cool chemistry stuff. Let me pause the music here and actually switch over to the stream layout. There we are. Hold on, let me test if chat is working. Hello, test message. If it's not, then that's something to fix. Because, yeah, I guess it has been a while since I've used this stream layout. Okay, no, it works. It's just still kind of weird and tiny. Okay, that's fine. Cool. Alrighty, so I have my period. I already searched up my periodic table. You get to see that I searched up an image for y'all, so that way you have it in the side there. But yeah, today we're gonna be talking about silicon carbide. In hindsight, I don't know why hold on. I don't know why I turned off the music. I still have a little bit of preamble to go through. There we go. Let's do this again. Alright, so with my little bit of preamble to talk about, yes, silicon carbide, the first thing that we're going to be going over today. So, silicon carbide is, as it sounds, a mixture of carbon and silicon, the first two elements in group 4 of the periodic table. Let me get my pen, so I'm doing the right thing. Here we are. So we have our carbon atoms and our silicon atoms. They are both electronically similar, or homologous, I guess would be the word for it. They both have 4 lone pairs of electrons. Yeah, they both have 4 lone pairs of electrons in their atomic states, occupying in carbon 1 times a 2s orbital and 3 times a 2p orbitals, where silicon just ups it by 1. It's the next energy level up, being 1 row lower in the periodic table. We have 1 times 3s orbitals and 3 times 3p orbitals. There. P orbitals have these kind of dumbbell shapes that go in the x, y, and z directions. And s orbitals have just a big sphere shape. And this is the shape that the electron kind of flies around in. And notably, being at these are the highest energy electrons for these two elements, this is what they use for bonding. And given that you have 4 points of connection, basically, and these elements are kind of right in the middle state of they want electrons, but they also kind of want to get rid of electrons. They're very flexible as far as making bonds go and making larger structures. So that's how you end up with the field of organic chemistry being based around carbon making bonds to stuff. Carbon wants 4 bonds, it's gonna get it. It's gonna get them somehow. Silicon is a little bit more freeform on that. You might notice the coloration on the table here is different, and that does indicate that while carbon is a non-metal, silicon is a semi-metal or a metalloid, depending on what literature you're looking at. And as many of you know, silicon is a semiconductor as well. On its own, it's not a particularly great semiconductor, but if it has little impurities, or what we would call doping of phosphorus or nitrogen, other elements in there, it definitely helps actually its electrical conductivity. And part of the reason that silicon has good electrical conductivity is that it has these 4 unpaired electrons. When you have it in a big bulk silicon, let me make a new layer for this. Essentially, a big bulk block of silicon is just a bunch of silicon atoms that are all deciding to share their electrons. I understand that what I'm currently drawing looks like the audio version of an Italian or Spanish yes men, but I promise you this is silicon, not C. It's a 2 out of 10 joke. But essentially, you have these silicon atoms in a 3-dimensional space bonding to each other with the 4 electrons they have available to them. Let's see. Yes, the 4 electrons they have available to them. Of course, you can kind of see I drew everything here at 90-degree angles because this is a flat plane and drawing with spheres is difficult, but just trust me, you have the electrons kind of floating all throughout. And the electronic structure of this bulk silicon ends up looking something like this, where as the energy rises, you have what's called a band that is full of electrons because it's all the silicon atoms donating their electrons to kind of hold the structure together. And then you have above is a empty band, which is the anti-bonding orbitals of the silicons. See, if you were to add a whole bunch of electrons in between the silicon atoms, that would break the bonds between the silicon atoms because quantum physics, basically. And also electron repulsion, they don't want to stay together anymore, that kind of stuff. So you get a semiconductor when you have a band gap that is actually small enough for electrons to, with the proper voltage, let me write that out. Apply voltage. Ooh, that's a big V. Apply voltage will cause some electrons to kind of jump up to the next nearest empty orbital, or empty band, and jump the band gap, as we would say. And these orbitals, they do, much like the S and P orbitals in individual silicon atoms, do actually have relevance to 3D space. Like an S orbital will be surrounding the silicon atom. A P orbital would be partially near silicon, or be kind of around 2 sides of a silicon atom. You can have these bands that basically form orbitals all across the solid. And so you get semiconduction by these electrons being able to, with enough energy, physically not only move between bands, that corresponds to physical movement throughout the material. And as I mentioned, if you put things in silicon that have different orbitals to contribute to these energy bands, that allows you to make the semiconductor more efficient. Like if, and this is just kind of a pulling out of my ass moment, I'm not sure if the numbers are exactly correct here, or if the band is full or empty here, but if you add, some carbon bands here, just enough carbon, you'll probably form, oops, I'm drawing on the wrong layer. You will probably get some bands here from carbon electrons, and so now you have a much smaller voltage to cross, and so you can actually get semiconduction with less electricity, or with, less resistance. You don't have to put in as much voltage, and so it's just a more efficient system, a less dangerous one, and it's how we get electronics and computers and all that stuff. So that's the point of, I think, something related to why he's making silicon carbide. Of course, this is the Explosions&Fire channel, so I'm guessing there's a more energetic purpose that he's doing this for. But regardless, band gap chemistry is pretty cool to actually think about. And it's just like, yeah, that's how, like, if you've ever wondered why semi-metals and metals are the way they are, it's because of this. It's how their electronic gaps are configured like this. Semi-metals have these kind of, metalloids or semi-metals have these kind of like medium band gaps that can be crossed with enough energy without just cooking the material. Metals have like almost no gap between them. And non-metals like carbon have like a huge band gap between them. Like I kind of drew the silicon one, but if I drew like a carbon one, a carbon diagram like this, and if I could draw straight, that would also be very helpful. You could probably end up having bands that are like this far separated. It's like, that's way too much. The carbon will burn before you get there. But yeah, so I think that's enough background to kind of get us started. Oh, the other thing I wanted to actually show off was, this is also a fairly interesting episode for me, because I actually have a piece of silicon carbide, at my desk at work as a nice decoration. Let me just, get that image up real quick, so you can kind of, so y'all can understand, what the product we're looking for looks like. It's silicon carbide is also known as carborundum, and it's this pretty kind of, black shining material. I believe I have this here, right? That's the right image. Yeah, there we go. So carborundum is this nice shiny material with a lot of like little bit of rainbow texturing on it because of that's a physics phenomenon of like you get these thin films that are like the light can shine off of as if it's a diffraction grating, and it causes the lights to separate by the angle that they actually hit the material at, and light of different wavelengths reflects at different angles, so you can kind of see with a diffraction grating those angles get exaggerated, and so the naked eye can kind of separate them out, and so you get this cool rainbow shimmer to them. But this is roughly kind of what we're looking to see today out of the chemistry synthesis going on. So I think without further ado, we can get started with whatever today's chemistry lesson is. Let me just stop the music here for a second, and let's get going with it.
G'day, welcome back to another episode
And let me also balance the audio again. I think I turned things down for the music there.
of Extractions and Fire, where we're taking on another project of science to do in the shed. And this month's project is to make silicon carbide, this interesting semiconductor material. To make silicon carbide, we just really need to mix silicon and carbon, mix it well and
so
heat it
easy.
up. So it's kind of like baking a cake if you were baking that cake on the surface of the sun. I mean, maybe not surface of the sun temperatures, but we still need to get this very
Sounds
hot.
like a job
This
for
is
Smash
a
Mouth.
very high temperature and is going to push our heating equipment to the limit, probably past it.
Thermodynamically, the formation of silicon carbide is possible only above 1,515 Celsius. Most blowtorches don't get up to that temperature, so that's why he will be using a very cool electric furnace that gets really, really hot.
Limit. So that's really the main problem with this whole episode and project. I'll get into it straight away. Can we heat this mixture hot enough? If we can, we will end up with some silicon carbide. And if not, I don't know. I'll be very sad. But that's the
Well, he wouldn't put out the video if
he could. Heating. Silicon carbide is an interesting material. It really gets the semiconductor properties from the silicon and the physical hardness properties from the carbon, although it doesn't really excel in either of those areas. You know, it ends up in some
A
sort
jack
of
of two
weird
trades.
applications
It makes
because
sense.
It's hard, but not quite as hard as diamond.
Ooh,
It ends
that's
up
pretty
in
hard, though.
abrasives, really, if you want to cheap out and don't want to go with diamonds. There's also some body armor ends up with silicon carbide, but the semiconductor properties are also interesting.
I didn't know that about the body armor, though. That's pretty cool considering, like, yeah, it would make sense. Like, this is a pretty lightweight material that is kind of balanced between having actual resistance and not crumbling like graphite would, and also not costing $1 billion like diamond would, but also still having like some, some stretch and some give between little individual plates. That's cool. I didn't think about that.
Also, some body armor ends up with silicon carbide, but the semiconductor properties are also interesting. The first LEDs were silicon carbide, and you can get really good gem quality silicon carbide. It's not quite as hard as diamond again, so that kind of lowers its value.
I'm guessing that the reason why my piece of silicon carbide is, looks like this rather than the nice cut ones there is probably the same reason that some graphite or some carbon looks like graphite. Gray, dark, and flaky, versus or even looks like coal, gray, dark, and not flaky, versus diamonds being very shiny and translucent. It's just how well ordered are the atoms between each other. Are they arranged in a nice tetrahedral lattice like diamonds, or are they just kind of fucking everywhere like coal and graphite? Well, graphite's partially structured, but anyways.
And also, it's obviously a synthetic material, so it doesn't get as valued as high as natural diamonds. But really, when you look at it, it looks so nice because the refractive index is higher than diamonds, so that actual spark...
Hey, Turtle Sword, I know those guys. I buy a whole bunch of things from them.
Sparkle, that kind of rainbow, I think it's called fire in diamonds. It's more enhanced in this silicon carbide. The trade name for the gem is moissanite. And you can get these big lumps of moissanite, gem quality moissanite, for pretty cheap. Apologies, I don't have a diamond this size to compare the fire to, but yeah, this pure silicon carbide is fantastic. Actually, speaking of fire, this is another gem I also got from Turtle's Horde, and this is a rutile gem, and rutile has a very high...
Now you're just showing off, Tom.
And it is insanely sparkly. I've never seen anything like it. It's just the most fascinating gem to look at, and it's just made out of titanium dioxide, which is just used to make white paint. But here it is in a gem, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, the structure of things can really change shit around.
It's fantastic. Anyway, Turtle's Horde. Weird gems, you get them.
I do highly recommend if you want weird chemical gems, go buy from them.
It's just a cool site, man. Anyway, we are definitely not going to be making something of this quality. We're not going to be making gem quality single crystal silicon carbide here. We are at best going to be making some polycrystalline material that hopefully fuses together. But jumping back in application, if the doping level is kind of right, we're not really going to try and dope it. We're just going to let the intrinsic dopants from all the impurities dope the material. If we can get that right,
dust.
we should be able to form an LED. Well, an LED should just spontaneously form, and then we just put current through it, and we should see light coming out of it. There are some videos of people getting this industrial silicon carbide and putting voltage at certain spots, and you see the light emission from it. So sort of industrial silicon carbide can work as a LED. So I'm hoping to do the same thing here. These people obviously didn't make their silicon carbide. We've got to make it. We've got to try and fuse it together to form large enough crystals, or like masses of crystals, that we can start to see this LED behavior from the semiconductor material.
It's cool. Just think you can electrocute.
I always enter these videos with high optimism.
You can just electrocute a point on the big fucking rock, and it just starts to glow. This shit would have made our caveman ancestors like blow their minds, or they would have started a new religion out of this.
The semiconductor material. That would be great. I always enter these videos with high optimism. 1800 degrees Celsius. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Reports of how hot we need to get this vary a lot, but it just seems like the hotter you get it, the better. We are going to be using my induction furnace, which can put 5 kilowatts of power into conductive material, and that got very hot last time we used it, which maybe we'll get that hot again. Maybe we can get it hotter.
Oh, no, you are.
Really improve the furnace a little bit. So
I was going to say,
like melt if we're trying to get it hotter for sustained periods of time, but that's the goal. All right, that's it. Let's go do some science. Let's make the mixture. One thing at a time. Let's make the mixture. To make silicon carbide, we're not going to just mix silicon with carbon. We're actually going to use silicon dioxide with carbon, and it's, sort of going to make silicon in situ. The carbon's going to steal the oxygen from the silicon dioxide, hopefully form silicon carbide.
Like, just because it's easier to get silicon dioxide?
Trying to make a semiconductor grade material, silicon carbide, as, an LED. So we obviously need to use the best quality reagents that we can possibly get.
You bought sand, didn't you, Tom?
Silicon dioxide.
There's
lots of forms of silicon dioxide you can have around. Not all of them have
even better
cute cat on them. Silica gel is just highly porous silicon dioxide.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Because, yeah, if you wanted, like, pure silicon to use, like, okay, yes, the synthesis would probably go easier, and there would be less chance of, like, weird gas bubbles and trying to have that flow through, a molten mass, and trying to get all of that out of your material in the form of carbon dioxide. But given the fact that elemental silicon's expensive and not easy to come by, and it's not easy, really not easy, to make elemental silicon out of something common like silicon dioxide. Yeah, no, cat litter tracks. The only other thing I could possibly have thought of is that instead would have just gone to the beach and got a bunch of sand. Like, that makes sense. Ew, what's my... Okay, no, my video, hold on, my YouTube video is just very far behind. I was looking at my, I have my phone open to monitor things. I looked over, I'm like, wait a minute, the video's still playing? What's going on with that? I need to fix that just so I can keep an eye on things. And YouTube's going to be a bitch about it. Okay. Well, that's live enough now, I guess. Okay, there we go. Back to the video.
It'll have a lot of water absorbed in there, but we're not too worried about getting the mass ratios and everything right between this and the carbon. So if we just heat it, all the water should go off. There's a couple of blue crystals in here with some indicator in them. I think it used to be cobalt. It might not be cobalt chloride anymore, but we won't use the blue crystals. We'll just use the other non-blue crystals, and then any small amount of blue that comes through, we'll just assume is dopant for our LEDs. So that's fine.
That okay. Thanks, you want to get some cat shit in there too, Tom, while you're at it? Like
fish.
All right.
For like aquariums. This is carbon.
A pet store synthesis, huh?
For like absorbing contaminants.
Couldn't even go to the hardware store this time.
Designing this project, I was like, porous materials. That would be great because then they have more surface area, and we're doing a solid state reaction, so it'll be easier for them to react. But that's not how it works. Just because these two are both porous doesn't mean that the surface area between them is enhanced, because neither of them can fit into each other's pores. But maybe it might make it easier for us to crush it down to small particle sizes, especially considering comparing to something like beach sand, which is going to be very hard to crush down. So these little activated carbon granules will crunch that down into a nice fine powder, and this we will crunch down into a nice fine powder as well using a ball mill. We've got this good old-fashioned steel shot in the rubber. I do have the newer fancier one. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for crushing sand because it's pretty hard, and also, you know, it's still contaminated with lead.
Well, it's still yellow. Oh, but that's just your dopant. Moly. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Wow. That was weeks and weeks ago. I expected.
So for anybody who missed the Explosions and Fire lore, he did do a fun synthesis of fluorescent, certain fluorescent solids that contain a shitload of lead to actually be very fluorescent under UV light. And yeah, he maybe does not do the best job at actually cleaning up after himself. So you still end up having this kind of, you know, just kind of gross invisible lead contamination left behind. It's no big deal, right? But anyways, as he's talking about, yes, he's talking about like crushing these materials to increase their surface area so that way they can actually react a bit better. So if you maybe a visual learner, it's best to think of it this way. If you're getting your silicon dioxide particle and it's very big, very irregular, looks like this, you have your carbon particles, and you have let's just say it's a huge flake of carbon like this. The most these two can really react with at the surface as solids, because they're not dissolved and they're not floating very well throughout the very hot reaction mixture. The most these two particles can interact is like right here along the surface in which they're actually touching. But, you know, given this is an arbitrarily sized lump, I mean, you can have silicon atoms that are, like, super small here, and they're all of, like, this size. Carbon atoms of all, like, this size here along the border as well. But then that leaves, well, what about the silicon particle here? And the silicon particle here? What about the carbon here, and here, and here, and here? They're not reacting. So if you want to actually get good results, you want to crush you want to crush this up so that way you can end up having much smaller particles of silicon dioxide, you know, let's say this large arbitrarily, and carbon this large arbitrarily. And then you have a whole bunch of these floating around, and they're going to start interacting much more efficiently with each other. There's still going to be some inefficiency because there's still going to be some silicon dioxide, you know, near only other silicon dioxide, some carbon near only some carbon, but you have a much greater surface area for all of these particles to actually interact with each other. So reactions thus will go better and faster and lower temperatures, and you'll end up with a purer product in the end, and there's less inside of a given particle to not react. So that's why crushing this is very important to get a solid state reaction to work. You don't want this
to decay by now. That's, Lord, I should clean that, but Anyway, we'll put that to side for now. We're going to be grinding this silicon dioxide outside, far away. Fucking silica dust is not healthy.
Yeah, an exposure control issue of inhaling too much silica dust. You'll get silica lung, and boy, that's not good for your lungs. See, look at that. Could develop COPD, silicosis, lung cancer. Silicon dioxide's not really a harmful compound on its own, but like if you're breathing small shards of it, it's basically the same reason asbestos is bad for you. It gets embedded in your lungs, and it's not meant to be there. Your body has no way of getting rid of it, so then your lungs just suck forever.
In the slightest. You've heard of asbestos, it's the same idea. It's not such a hazard to be around beach sand because all that sand is rounded so it doesn't like get stuck. So there's a certain size range that is very, very hazardous to breathe and gives you all sorts of lung issues. So we are going to be taking that seriously, not releasing a whole lot of sharp silica dust in here. It's windy outside.
Just outside.
It's a good day to crush some silica. I don't know, what is that cat thinking? What is that cat's expression? Is he just thinking about his next shit? He doesn't look that happy to be there, honestly. I mean, they could put any cat on this bag. I really put a very contemplative cat on here.
Oh, the cat looks aware to me. Looks like he's looking at a bird.
Up the sand first, the silicon dioxide. We'll just
maybe he's concerned about all the lead poisoning he's about to get.
Crush up this hard material than it will this very soft carbon. So let's crush it up. We should really crush them up individually, and then we can weigh out set amounts rather than just eyeballing it. Even though we don't really care about the ratios too much, it at least feels a little bit more like science if we actually weigh things out rather than just sort of pouring in random amounts and getting to it. That being said, let's just pour in a random amount for now and get to it.
Probably should worry about the ratios when he actually does his chemistry. Like, you don't want to end up having too much carbon, because then it's like, oh, well, you could, it's too much. It's no longer a 1-to-1 silicon carbide kind of thing. Like, should actually give a little bit of a shit. Dope music choice, though.
Best of luck, little guy.
Returning the silica to nature.
About 3 hours, I've got my dust mask on. I'm not hoping for too much like nice white sand, but hopefully the particles are all kind of crushed down a little bit. Ah, what is this?
That's the most unexpected possible result. Oh, actually, I missed if he added. I don't think he added the carbon in there, which is why this is all the funnier. But like, yeah, congratulations! You managed to turn your nice bright white chunks of silica dioxide into black carbon somehow. You did alchemy in a fucking ball mill where all that happened was metal balls ran against your material. So I'm guessing someone maybe didn't clean his ball mill from the last time he used it and is now very, very grossly contaminated.
Where'd all that come from? Look, I'm just going to put them in a blender. Yeah, I'll put them in a blender first.
A blender?
Clean all this off. What is this? Where's this from? What's going on?
I've never seen a ball mill go so poorly. Anyway, those blades are like fucked now. Silicon dioxide is a pretty hard material, even in cat litter form. So I think those blades are pretty dull now that he used a blender for it. Yes, Tom, return whatever black contamination goop to the earth.
The stuff got all buffed before. I think there was all this caked on carbon. I tried to clean off earlier, but I guess the grinding action of the silica against the walls dislodged a lot of carbon, which turned it all black. But it doesn't really matter because we're going to be mixing this with carbon anyway. It just feels a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, it's your carbon source.
Reagents get so dirty from the equipment. So we're going to try again. But now with this sort of sand consistency powder in the ball mill, just to see if we can get it really, really fine. But do not want to breathe this. Gotta say, holy moly.
I think the funniest option would be if the silicon dioxide was actually reacting.
Got any finer than this?
No. If it was actually reacting with, like, the sides of the ball mill, that would be terrible.
So let's finally get this open and see if we're actually doing anything or just contaminating our product. I don't think, I mean, given how hard the material is and the way we're kind of turning it, it's probably not really crushing it too much, but maybe it's still grinding the pieces
Please let it be
other,
black
kind
again.
of rounding them off, decreasing the particle size that way.
Funniest thing ever.
Nice.
Oh, hey, that's better. That's, like, actually still the same color.
And kind of caked up in here.
Hey, the cat litter did its job.
Yeah, it's kind of caked up, but it's looking
caked up on a Thursday night. Don't mind me.
Dangerous. Oh yes, Lord. Okay, I shouldn't really have done that. Just the temptation to stick my hand in there really got to me. Sorry.
You should eat it too. I heard that it's tasty.
Before doing this sort of shit, still. Ooh, Lord. I have bought
eat your caked up silica, Tom.
So maybe we'll
it's
have
good
a look
for you.
And see if we can sort of see roughly the particle size of what this is now and compare it to what it was just out of the blender. So I'll get some of this out. I gotta stop putting my hands in this fucking dangerous shit. My God. All right, cool. So we can see the consistency is a bit more like flour. Whereas before it was.
It's the YouTuber temptation to just constantly touch the thing that you're trying to show off to, like, you know, add some motion to the screen, make sure that everybody pays attention to what's still happening. You can't stop it even if it's deadly material.
Kind of fine sand, but I've got this $20 microscope.
$20 microscope. It's probably so good quality.
It is allegedly 1,000 times zoom. That's just a straight lie. But, you know, for $20, I thought I'd risk it, and maybe we can see at least some of the particle sizes of the larger ones. And when I say risk it, I mean, yeah, the only thing I'm really going to plug this into is a very old Lenovo ThinkPad that doesn't have internet connection. So nothing.
It's also missing the J key.
Like I'm actually doing science than working with a Lenovo ThinkPad. All the labs I've been in just have a load-bearing Lenovo ThinkPad in there somewhere. I haven't turned this on in like 4 years maybe. So
God, he's so right about that. The number of labs I've inspected that are still like, they have an old Windows Vista somewhere, or they have like something running like Windows XP for like one narrow instrument that's been there since like 1970, or they have like a well, I mean, I guess those times don't quite align, but you know, maybe they had to upgrade at one point and actually put it on a computer. Or like they have I see labs that have like CRT, like really old CRT monitors that are like not even large CRT monitors, ones that are probably like maybe 5 inches wide at most. And it's just like, why do you still have this? Like, don't you have research grants to have like a slightly better visual of what the fuck you're doing? It's ridiculous.
Hopefully.
Anyways, I've actually seen this $20 microscope before being used on a food channel I watch, Adam Ragusia, to like actually look at like the microscopic structure of various foods like bread and fruit and shit like that. So I think this microscope actually is pretty good, all things considered.
So
I don't know if it's going to be good enough for this,
Windows
but
7, those were the days. Oh, Steam. Anyway, hopefully this works without drivers. I do have this CD. All right, let's get this working. Hopefully it just works straight through the camera app. That's what I'm optimistically hoping for.
Oh, it's lighting up. It turned on.
Device is ready to use. Device software successfully installed. Movie Maker. This has Movie Maker on it? Oh man. This is what I edited the first Explosions&Fire videos on in Movie Maker. What's the last? Hydrazine Classic. What a workhorse. What am I doing? Oh, camera.
Distracted by your own nostalgia.
Alright.
Oh yeah, look at those little needles.
So this is a 100 by 100 micron grid, so 0.1 millimeters by 0.1 millimeters. Each of those square is 0.1 millimeters squared, right? So, I mean, it's not terrible resolution. This is probably about as good as it gets, it seems. Certainly not 1,000 times. It's not great quality or anything. So, there's a grid in there. Let's see if we can see our particles. Yeah, as we can see, these particles are quite big.
And they're being blown away by the wind.
Blown away. Alright, cool. You can definitely see the particles are well over 100 microns.
God, I have good comedic timing. This man has... I have good universe comedic timing where the universe likes to play pranks on me. This guy has godlike universal comedic timing. It always happens to him in the funniest possible manner.
Some pieces that are close to 100 microns. Alright, now let's look at our other one. Yeah, the pieces don't look like a lot smaller, but they just look all smashed up.
Those are nice and those are very shardy.
Together. I mean, you can see it's small enough to get into the fibers of the paper now. Anyway, all this to say, yes, we successfully milled the particles down to a smaller particle size. That's great. That's really good for our solid state reaction. That's really good. I'm pleased. I'm pleased. I'm pleased we have all this silica dust around. I'm very pleased.
And just for good measure, sift it out. Oh, well, no, that makes sense. It needs to separate it from the balls of the ball mill. You're gonna spill half of it, you know, don't worry about that. All the hydration from the atmosphere will kind of cause things to clump back up again, so it is important that he stores it, or gets it dry as quickly as possible.
Remove some of the water. Well, I'm trying to get rid of most of the water, I suppose, so our
weighing is accurate. Heating it too.
Know how much silicon dioxide we have to carbon in our ratio. Once again, it doesn't really matter. It just feels like we're doing a bit better science if we are accurate with our weighing rather than just mixing a random amount of sand and charcoal and torching it and calling it a day. Yeah, well, you can heat this up pretty hot. Obviously not going to decompose, so what's it say, 150? Yeah, I might as well just crank that, and then we'll let it cool.
Yeah, 150 is pretty low for getting water out of silicon dioxide.
So don't just immediately pull back water.
It's often hygroscopic up to 300.
Down again, should be all right. And in the meantime, I'm going to go crunch up some of those carbon pieces, those carbon rods, into some nice fine carbon powder, all ready to mix with this one. So let's go crunch some carbon powder.
Crunchy carbon powder, part of any balanced diet. Yeah, carbon silicon dioxide really has just a propensity to stick to everything.
But at least now we have
not quite sure why, but it would be pretty interesting if I knew why.
Carbon, and get to the much more exciting bit, which is the heating part. But I've been very lazy the last 2 weeks. Haven't done much, but also there's an excuse for my laziness, which is I don't want to disturb some new little guys because it's October.
Birds?
So that
again?
means the birds are back.
Yes!
I haven't checked on them in about 10 days, but
for anyone new to the channel, or for anyone new to his channel, he does have this fucking shit shed where he does all of his chemistry in. A bird family moved in like 2 years ago and has returned routinely to lay more eggs. So now we're getting an update and seeing what the newest bird family is like.
I assume. Hello? Any guys? Little guys?
A couple eggs.
It's still eggs. How long do they stay eggs?
Nest is just getting bigger and messier, too.
Okay, well then there's no excuse for my laziness, although I definitely disturbed the mama bird. She does not like me being here, but, you know, I kind of was here first, honestly. Once again, it's probably on me for not moving this nest all year, but then again, if I had moved this nest, they probably would have rebuilt it. She's done some improvements to it this year. It looks bigger than it was previously. It's a huge nest now.
Got a beard now, yeah.
Two guys. But, anyway.
Fits right in with the rusty saws.
Focus back on the bloody chemistry here. Well, let's see if we can make some silicon carbide before the birds leave the nest. That's always a real indication of the passing of time. But
surprised you just didn't use the twigs as, you know, a carbon source.
Time for like an egg. I don't know. I don't understand eggs. Big Egg says it's probably fine. That's not my domain. We're here to do chemistry. Biology is weird and confusing to me.
Yeah, but biology is like mostly carbon-based. You didn't even have to go to the pet store for the carbon.
We have our powdered silicon dioxide, which I've set up to weigh out here, but I'm actually not going to weigh out here because powdered silicon dioxide, and I keep forgetting that I cannot handle that indoors. How much do we need of each? Actually, if we look at the reaction scheme, work out the molar masses, it's about 6 grams of carbon to 10 grams of silicon dioxide. However, I think I'm going to increase the carbon by, a bit, but not too much. So maybe, let's say 8 grams of carbon to 10 grams of silicon dioxide. Because the way this is going to work,
yeah, probably some of that carbon's going to just burn.
Is because the carbon is conductive.
On its own.
We have this in an induction furnace.
And it's conductive too.
Magnets, and it's just going to heat up electrically conductive materials. It's designed to melt metals, but also in its normal design, it has this big graphite crucible, and of course the graphite is conductive, so the induction.
It is true. That is actually a good point about graphite structure. If you look at the diagram I drew up a little while ago. Yeah, so graphite has this hexagonal structure to it, where I can also kind of draw in the double bonds that I'm missing here. So Drawing some of these. Drawing some of these. And then, is that? No, that's not right. Hold on, I got the shape wrong. That shouldn't be there. That should be here and here. And then these two have double bonds to them. There we go. Those two double bonds. So each carbon can only have up to one double bond each, because that would be 4 bonds total, and you can't go over that amount. That's not right. There we go. Right. That. Because those two, and then these two have it. These two have it. This one does. This one down here, and then this one down here. Okay, yeah. So you have these carbon double bond structures that graphite. It as many people with high school chemistry knowledge will remember. Graphite is these big carbon hexagon plates that have double bonds between them, and these plates basically stack on top of each other to form the graphite material, which is how pencils work and how you can get little bits of graphite coming off of your pencil as you just rub it against a piece of paper. It's physically layers of graphite are kind of being separated from each other as they are only loosely connected. And the graphite is electrically conductive because these double bonds all form a pi system. So if you remember my discussion earlier about the p orbitals, you have basically p orbitals sticking out perpendicular to the plane. So if the graphite itself is forming one plane, you have all of these dumbbell-shaped p orbitals kind of up and down. So they're on the z-axis while the graphite is on the x and y-axis. And the electrons can basically freely flow through these pi bonds. And so if you're applying electricity to one side or a voltage across them, electricity will flow from one side to the other. And yeah, you can get conductivity that way. And given that the arc furnace works by basically causing the electrons to move around at high speeds, generates friction and other quantum mechanical means of generating heat from like electronic vibrations, causing the molecule to like expand and contract at the atomic scale. It'll create heat, and that's how we get a super hot induction furnace going. So yeah, graphites. See how that talk about p orbitals and stuff at the beginning was important. It actually mattered for this video. It wasn't just me padding things out.
Furnace is also heating up the crucible, which is how we managed to get to quite high temperatures. Last time we used the furnace, even though we didn't have a conductive material we wanted to heat, which was the yellow pigment. But because the crucible itself got so hot from the the induction coils that the material inside got hot. We're not going to try and do that today. We're going to try and use a non-conductive crucible, and that way we've just got kind of this small amount of carbon in there, which is going to take all the heat, all the wattage from the induction coils and into just that small amount of carbon. And then that way we're not radiating out all the heat from the crucible like we were last time.
Yeah, that way you can keep all the heat just within your reaction rather than the object.
We'll survive the high temperatures, and then just the silicon dioxide and the carbon itself gets super hot in there. So we're going to do just a little bit more carbon. Wow, it's really windy.
Also, as I kind of mentioned or speculated on, it's not a horrible idea to have extra carbon as well, for the fact that, I mean, if you've ever just tried to burn coal or charcoal, then you'll know that carbon does in fact burn in oxygen to form carbon dioxide when, you heat it in the air. So even if he had the perfect amounts to mathematically satisfy the reaction of silicon dioxide plus 2 equivalents of carbon to give you silicon carbide and CO2, some of that carbon is inevitably going to react with oxygen in the air. And, well, that's a side reaction. That's also producing CO2 on its own. That's just wasting carbon. You have to kind of do a little bit of extra accounting for that. Of course, if you go overboard, then you're not creating silicon carbide. You are creating dirty carbon, carbon that has a little bit of silicon dioxide in it. So, it's a little balancing act, and it's honestly kind of an art rather than a science, because it's not a great way to estimate how much carbon is enough to kind of placate the oxygen gods, but not too much to drown out your silicon source. So, trial and error, and I'm sure he's probably just going to eventually get a recipe that ends up working if this one doesn't work well enough for him.
It's creaking today. Hope it's not a thunderstorm blowing in. That'll really ruin my plans for the day. But what did I say? 10 grams of silicon dioxide, 8 grams of carbon, or maybe double that. And we'll just put it through the ball mill one more time as the mixture, just to get everything really nice and mixed and together. Might as well. I mean, the ball mill's already dirty with just a little bit of silicon dioxide, so
might as well just get a gray powder out of it. It's fine.
Big batch, and we'll see how much fits in the crucibles, because the crucibles still haven't arrived. I've had some trouble sourcing the crucibles that will successfully do what I
couldn't source it from Eastern Europe this time, Tom.
Do what I want them to do. They still might explode trying to get them to this hot, but don't have the crucibles yet, so let's just grind it together. Let's just do that. Just take another little small step. Why not? All right, that's 20 grams of silica, 16 grams of carbon.
And 1 plastic cup sent to the oceans. The fish deserve it as a treat.
Importantly, now that this is turning and we don't have any crucibles, still waiting for them to ship. In the meantime, let's get this bloody induction furnace working well. I have some modifications I want to do to it to make it run hotter, because I feel like it can get very hot.
Make it run hotter and not have water accidentally pouring all over the electronic components. You know, safety.
But the problem is the water cooling. Let's go spend some money.
Not money.
More money on some more things and try and improve the water cooling.
This is a backyard shed synthesis channel. You don't actually go and buy things.
We'll come back to this at some point. All right, and there it is. The bloody furnace. Let's go.
Mounted artistically on a recycling bin.
Melting furnace. This did a great job last time. Actually, when I say that, we wanted to try and get the mixture, the pigment mixture, really hot, and we believe it got too hot. So that's good, because we were aiming for about 1400 degrees last time. Now we're aiming for about 1800. We need to do some upgrades on this. Well, actually, mostly on its bloody back end here, because this water pump here runs off this bloody outlet, which does, 240 volt for some reason, just to step it down to 12 volts to run this pump, to pump water through, which is as it came from the manufacturer, just with the tube on the inside, even though this, obviously, these barbs are
should
made
have a bigger
to
tube
have the tubing go on the outside with the hose clamp, but they've just
otherwise
really just
that's why you get these big
here.
leaks.
It's just terrible, and it's bad for a number of reasons.
Yeah, that's the electronic hazard that happened last time.
Power here, so if this whole thing draws too much power from the wall and trips the circuits, which we were worried about it doing last time, then this pump stops working, so the water stops circulating. So if it's hot and then the power trips, this thing will melt down. And even when it was running, with the water running through it, the water was coming out steaming, which is just unacceptable, because if the water starts boiling on the inside, it doesn't cool the furnace, so that's also no good. So we need a whole new pump system, really, and ideally
it will cool the furnace. I mean, steam can get however hot it really wants to, though I see the point of you want it to maintain cold water moving through, because you'll get, one, just better heat transfer from a hotter object to a colder object if you keep the colder object colder, and then two, if it's, liquid water is going to conduct better than gaseous water will, especially hot gaseous water. So,
like a water chiller, so something that's trying to cool the water as well as recirculate it, so that we don't just have to have a huge reservoir and just wait for that reservoir to heat up over time. So I don't have one of them, but maybe I can get one of them and just not use this bloody contraption. We can use this side and then plumb in our own water into the inlet and outlet. Then I would feel a lot better about this, and there are a lot of comments telling me to do this
less of a death machine,
which is fair enough. Yeah, let's improve this induction furnace so that we feel a little bit better letting it run without risk of it causing a meltdown. Okay, I've bought another machine, brand new, still in its plastic, VRoid, Tough Tools half price.
Boy, this channel is getting awfully expensive lately. Where's he getting the money for this?
It really was half price. This thing was only like just under 300 Australian dollars, which is very, very cheap. So
not bad,
I'm a
actually.
little worried about it. This is a water chiller, so it's going to pump the water around and also maintain the temperature of the water. Well, ideally. It's 150 watts of cooling power, so the water sits in there and it's got a cooling unit, and it's really just trying to take the heat out of the water, so we have warm water returning to the machine. We don't recirculate warm water back to the machine. So that's what this is a chiller here for Forbidden to start without water. The water level is forbidden to exceed yellow. Seems appropriate.
It's a piece of equipment right after his own heart. Loves avoiding the color yellow because that is just what happens when your organic reaction is oxidized and is therefore garbage.
For the channel. What else do the instructions say? Installing this industrial chiller is very simple.
It's very human.
We'll take his word for it. Let's go. Let's fill this guy up.
Who, unfortunately, instructions misunderstood. Ended up filling it with oil instead of water. Now it's completely fucked forever. Hey, Bear. Fire, fire, burn to the ground. No fires quite yet, but you are about to see a man try to make a what am I trying to say here? You are about to see a man test out a water cooler so that way he can efficiently cause something to heat up to like 1700 degrees Celsius. Much hotter than most open flames to maintain that temperature and not cause the instrument to burn down.
With water and
hello there.
Into mains electricity.
I see you've been playing Skong lately. I hope you've been enjoying it.
This bad boy started. Is every bit of machinery I buy a boy?
I have to avoid spoilers, so you know.
Gender diversity in the lab. Maybe one of them can be a girl. You know, we can see how that pans out for us.
Come on, Tom. If you have to paint it pink to call it a girl, you know.
Okay, that immediately
we'll accept it for now.
The worst thing I've ever said. Let's get this non-gendered machine fucking on. Look, we got some piping.
Make Donald Skong enjoying it. That's the best way to enjoy Skong, yeah.
You can't even see it. That's beautiful.
You're saying this shit's difficult and getting better at it.
Okay, cool. Are there controls? Or is that not really a thing that this thing does?
I feel like the control is on or off.
You can like set a water temp, but this just has on off and red light, green light. But it's showing green light.
And that's good.
Yeah. I wonder what it's trying to cool the water to, or maybe it just cools the water as hard as it can and calls it a day. Why is there not a set temperature button? How did I not notice there was not a set temperature button?
I think there's a little temperature gauge on the side there, the green, yellow, red.
But like, what is it trying to do? Like, what temperature is it trying to achieve? Or it's just trying to fucking keep it at room temperature?
I don't know, Tom, maybe look at the instruction manual that you threw into the ocean.
Tough tools, half price. E-warranty certificate. Oh, Christ. Why do I feel like I've avoided the warranty already just by turning it on somehow? All right, now, so we got this water coming through here. Our next step is to get it flowing through the bloody induction furnace. It's got different fittings, so I'm going to have to, like, do some plumbing to get the water to flow through there and do it well because we don't want it to, like, burst open, combining extremely high heat, water, and electricity all in one glorious moment. We don't really want that. So
you're not going to just duct tape the two tubes together. Is that what I'm hearing?
Here, even though it came with hose clamps. I should do that. Actually, I'm also going to put some coolant in this bad thing. Then hopefully it should be easy to see the flow. And also,
it was supposed to just be water. You're going to blow it up.
So yeah, maybe it'll stop it boiling. Although hopefully with this chiller we won't get to that point.
Oh, fucking yeah, madman doing it without a funnel.
All those years of chemistry was worth it. Oh, I bragged too much.
I mean, okay, it's true. The more the more chemistry you do, the better you do get at just kind of accurately pouring liquids. Well, alright, well, he fucked it up, but...
Yeah, see, look how quickly that went green. It's throwing that water around. It's a good flow rate. No air bubbles either. Very, very good. Very, very good. You are right.
Dapped up his fucking water cooler. That's the mama bird.
Just staring me down.
Making sure he doesn't go after her eggs in his shed.
Here we go. I haven't done too bad a job. Yeah, these fittings are really the only thing stopping us having a big disaster. So hose barb to MPT to bush fitting. So we can go from 10mm tubing to 6mm tubing. This is pretty high flow, so it'll actually be very high flow through this 6mm tubing here. 10mm.
Right, there's not so much resistance that it can't flow higher.
External. Anyway, this is very boring stuff. It looks all good. Yeah, I suppose it's easy to be proud of a plumbing setup before you turn it on.
Alright, let's see if the... It's angry, it seems.
Zone. Is it too high? Is it...
Oh, that's...
What do you want from me? You have a screen.
It has no mouth, but it must scream.
My piping, it's too powerful for it. Let's try it again. Try and pump. Come on.
I feel like the other side just isn't open.
Maybe the water level's too low. Alright, another attempt. Come on, is the pressure just too high for you? What's going on?
Yeah, it does not seem to be loving the whole thin tubing there at the end. Ooh, that's a mighty piss stream you got there. I think you'll win at Big Bill Hell's Cars if you do that.
Okay. So that's pretty good. Okay, troubleshooting. It was my fault. I connected the inlet to the inlet, but the outlet needs to go to the inlet, and the... Now we try again.
The inlet to the inlet. Fucking awesome. Cool. I mean, so he connected the thing from the cooler that puts the water out into the spot of the heater that's also supposed to turn water out. So he just completely fucking put pressure against the valves in the way it wasn't supposed to go. Good job.
It's getting there.
It's running. It's running.
Go. It's probably whinging just because there's air bubbles and there's no actual good return flow, but we'll get there. You'll get there.
You could do it. Don't give up on your
yeah.
dreams.
All right. If I turn you off and on, are you going to still beep? Why? All right, I get it. Find the instruction manual. Said the operation was simple. Why are you beeping?
Yeah, it's simple if you just follow instructions.
Too bad. You can do it. You're doing it.
Yeah, kick it, Tom. That'll make it stop.
Okay,
Shut up.
After a bit of testing, it's definitely a low flow alarm. So I've shortened these sections just a little. Hopefully that helps. Please, come on. You can do it. Maybe the machine has to be on. Maybe there's a little flow switch internally to this thing that it wants to be powered up before it like opens a valve or something internally. I doubt it, but let's just power this up. Not turn
see,
on
it's
the heating,
possible.
just power up, see if it opens up some water lines or something internally.
You'll maybe just want it to be only physically controlled.
Nah. Alright, I think I'm going to have to crack this guy open. Just have a look at some of the tubing internally in there, because if we can switch out some of the tubing for a bigger diameter tubing, then it'll increase the flow, which is better for it, and we'll stop this alarming. Damn. I was so impressed with my plumbing. Oh well, we'll get there. We'll get there. I don't want to disturb them, but yesterday these guys were eggs. Hello.
Now they're meaty little bastards. They're no longer eggs. Aw, that's so cute.
Sorry, I'll stop disturbing you. I'm sorry.
Skinless, featherless freaks.
I'm leaving. All right, I have finally got this working. I don't even know when the last update was, but there are more water lines now. But how this was set up previously, actually, I'll turn this off while I explain this. Previously, the water was doing two things in here. I think it's going through two heat exchangers. There's this one here. You can see the in and outlets here, but there's also one on the other side of the circuit board, which I can't really see. But the water line, see this water line here is going to go back there. And previously, what it was doing was going through both of these heat exchangers sequentially. So it was going through the one on the other side of the circuit board first, and then flowing out of there and then going into this one and then coming out. So that probably explains why it got so hot, because it's going through two heat exchangers, and it's not so great because the water entering this second heat exchanger was already hot when it probably went in there, so no wonder it was coming out steaming. And also, I guess with these heat exchangers, it really restricts the flow. Water chiller really didn't want to push all the water through both of those heat exchangers sequentially. So what I've done is now I've teed off the water, so half of the water goes through one exchange and half of the water goes through the other exchange, and then it goes all the way back in there. So cooling them in parallel is much better, I think. And also,
did you cut out a space for the tubes to...
This bloody thing is happy.
Did you cut out a space for the tubes to, like, go through while the machine rests on its bottom? Because otherwise you're just going to be crushing the flow, and then you're going to have flow problems again.
It's not, like, heaps big, humongous flow, but it's, like, still pretty decent. There's just some air trapped in here. And get that out, but it's decent, and as long as the chiller keeps the temperature normal, then it should be all right. And there's definitely some leaks there. I can't believe they've recessed this bit. I guess from a design point of view, it looks kind of nice, but like,
ooh, wow, that is leaky.
You need to get to these clamps to fucking tighten them, and when it's recessed, you can't, like, it's so much harder to get the fucking hose clamps. Anyway,
man complains about a half-off water cooler, and it's like, why is it so bullshit? Why does nobody want this?
I'm just gonna tighten the hose clamp. I just gotta get the fucking gotta get this screwdriver into there properly. Spent so much more time on this than I wanted to, and then was probably interesting in the video. I don't know if any of this is interesting, but now this thing won't melt down probably as easier. Maybe we'll go to all this effort and this thing will still just melt down, but I feel better about it now. We can crank the temperature.
Very funny. This is less of a
Hopefully
chemistry video right now. It's
half price,
much more of a like a physics and engineering video at the moment.
100 degrees Celsius. Are you feeling confident?
Can an Australian man set up water cooling efficiently?
Connected, everything's flying well. This has been going for like 10 minutes and it's about 20 degrees Celsius on the screen. There's a small water leak just because I'm missing a hose clamp here, but that's not a big deal. We've got lots of water in the reservoir. We've got a brand new graphite crucible here. I haven't turned this on in a while. Well, I mean, it's on now, but it hasn't been heating. So let's just crank it. Let's see. What do we want? 2000 or CFC. We'll see if it heats up. Let's see what the water looks like. I've got the thermal imaging going. So we'll see if this chiller can keep up.
I mean, you should put a piece of metal in there that, you know, only melts at that temperature. That way you can really test if it's 2000 C. And you would have something to show off.
4000 watts. Whoop.
Oh.
Alright. Lost power. I don't like that. Hopefully.
Using as much energy as a small AI data center.
Alright, I think you floated too much. Stuff can get too hot.
Yeah, looking at that crucible is for the camera is like, please God, my eyes, don't do that.
Well. I managed to keep it going hot for about, maybe 15 minutes. Temperature on the cooler is 30.8 degrees Celsius, which is, I mean, okay. It probably still can't run in
north of room temperature.
It can run okay. I mean, there is water everywhere. 2 connections here that don't have a hose clamp on them.
Just feed it some ice, Tom.
I think it's okay. Yeah, that's the one.
Again, the comedic timing on this man is fucking, the universal comedic timing is insane. Oh, it's probably okay. Falls apart.
Apart from that, I think it's okay. Yeah, see, that's the one. That's the one I pointed to. As the water gets hot, it softens the tubes and they come off the connections, which makes sense, and that's exactly what you have the hose clamp for. Yeah, alright. I have bought you a singular raspberry. I don't.
They will now become dependent on you, though.
Don't. Do you guys? You guys eat berries? Okay, let's talk crucibles.
Not even
now.
gonna show us trying to feed the birds the berry.
Things. We needed to survive 1800 degrees
stingy on
Celsius
us.
and also not be conductive, so that the induction furnace will heat the graphite in the crucible directly. Usually, what you would do is you use these alumina crucibles. These are not that expensive and can survive reasonably high temperatures, but sort of from online seems like they won't go above 1600 degrees Celsius, or really even kind of 1400. So they'll melt. That'll be very bad. Now, if you want to go hotter, normally you would go to a graphite or a metal crucible like nickel or tungsten or platinum or iridium, which are expensive, but that's not the main issue. The main issue is that they're conductive, so
right. And also the fact if you have a graphite crucible, you would just be reacting with the crucible, and eventually it would fall apart, and that could lead to very bad things for your heat death machine.
Doesn't really work with our tactics. So instead, we've gone to some a bit more obscure materials. Well, they're not really obscure, but they're just harder to find on like eBay. This is magnesium oxide crucibles. These got shipped out of China and took 2 months to ship, but here we are. These should survive up to a bit over 2000 degrees Celsius. So we shouldn't have any issues with temperature as long as we just don't shatter them. And the other crucibles I bought while waiting for these ones to arrive, and these are zirconia crucibles. Zirconia really is the key material for this. Yttrium stabilized zirconia is kind of like the new cool ceramic. It's not new really. It can survive really high temperatures very, very well. The problem is, well, the companies I ask for this kind of material keep telling me that it's export controlled, which is kind of a defense thing that like America and China have and blah, blah, blah. And they should still sell it to me. I just have to sign a form that says, no, I won't use this to make weapons or nuclear weapons or something like that. I think maybe the sellers telling me that it's export controlled is just kind of a polite way of them saying no, they don't want to sell it to me. But this is
I also don't foresee I don't know any reason how that could like zirconia could be used to make weapons, destructive weapons. Like, it's not exactly a highly reactive material, and like nuclear power plants typically have like power modulation via hafnium rods, not zirconium rods or anything. I don't know. It doesn't make quite sense to me. Sure, people have tried and failed. Yeah, they've definitely failed because this doesn't do anything. Welcome, Proto. You're just in time. We just got through assembling a new water cooler for the heat death machine that he was using and burning things with last time. And now we're talking about a vessel that will allow you to do the reaction that you see on screen without either burning up itself or getting super conductive and hot because of the way the furnace works, or, reacting with the materials in the reaction. So, yeah.
Not deuterium stabilized zirconia. This is calcium stabilized zirconia, which I think is slightly cheaper. These were still $100 each. So altogether here is probably 300 USD just for these 5 crucibles. So hopefully we don't just turn through and shatter them. That's the goal. I mean, they look just like normal ceramic, but hopefully they do survive these temperatures. And maybe I'll use them both. I'll use this one.
They are noticeably small
so that, it's kind of sitting in this magnet. Or maybe something like this, and then that sits in there. This is filled with graphite and silicon dioxide mix. That'll get really hot. It loses a lot of heat at these high temperatures from radiation, but we just have to stop the radiation
kind of flexible
to
already,
everywhere else and melting everything
weird.
Else. So if we contain it in here, I've got some.
I'm not sure that's going to hold up well with heat either.
Wool, which won't be good above 1400 degrees, but maybe will help kind of block some of that radiation from getting everywhere. I was hoping for this project to get some yttrium stabilized zirconia wool, which is a product that is sold, but it's expensive and it's hard to get. Once again, maybe it really is export controlled because you need it for, I don't know, jet engines or some stupid thing. But whatever. We're living on eBay scraps, which is very normal for us, so that's fine. All right, and then some other extra purchases, because why not? This is a high temperature thermocouple. Once again, is all alumina based, protective layer, and has a little bit of metal down the end, so this won't go much above 1350 degrees Celsius without catastrophically failing, but will at least let us, if we can have this here maybe outside of the zirconia, it will at least tell us if we're getting too hot and about to hit meltdown temperatures on the outside, which will be bad. So I think
can't monitor that. Can't monitor the reaction though.
Nicely mixed, so we just got to load it in there. I was thinking it would be nice if we could preheat the stuff in this other just normal resistive furnace, which will heat up the crucible. It'll get it to
right. I forgot he had the secondary one as well.
Maybe 1800 degrees. The maximum temperature on this one is 1100. But if we get it to a nice cruisy 800 degrees, then when we ramp it in the induction furnace and get the inside really, really hot, at least we're not going from like room temperature to 1800 degrees Celsius in like 2 minutes. Hopefully, if we give it a bit of preheating, it won't shatter. This is
that's true. You got to worry about that
because it was working. Now it's no longer working.
Same reason why you can't put a hot glass of water on a cold surface. It'll shatter.
To complain too much because 2 videos ago I was saying how amazing this was, that it was so cheap, and I love Chinese goods. So this is me. This is me reaping what I've sowed. God damn, I hate reaping. I only want to sow, honestly. But damn, at least I found the issue because I just plugged it in, it didn't turn on, took it apart. I mean, it's not that complicated. Well, I mean, there's wires, and the wires just go between like the screen and the switch and the furnace. The resistor section, which is this bit. Either a wire had melted or something, but it's just these connections on this switch, which look fine, but whatever. It's so boring. I come here to do chemistry, and I turn on all the machines.
Dad, we're doing electronics work.
Once again, it's the goddamn consequences of my actions, so I can't complain too much. So we'll load in the stuff and get it preheating once I fix this, and then I'll see you back at the induction furnace for some seriousness, when things are starting to get serious. Yeah. I'm going to check on the birds too. Speaking of getting serious.
The birds eat the raspberry, Tom?
Distracted.
Oh, they're poking their little heads out. Oh, and there's Mama. I love how the little birds really only come out to say, like, hello to their mom to get food. That's, like, the only thing they're going to do.
Oh, I just ripped my fucking pants. Oh, Christ. Can anything else go wrong with this project?
And he's got a lot of errors on this project. Pants included.
Goddamn dick out. Whatever. Let's fucking get this done. Hey, all right, thank you.
Dicks out for silicon carbide. This canvas is very messy canvas, where he gets about half of his mixture into his fucking tube. You know, Tom, you own pieces of paper that you can fold and like pour in from. You know you can do that, right? You've done it for other things.
Oh, what?
And it doesn't fit inside of the fucking resistant furnace. Okay, he finally got it to work. Okay, so you did mention this is more of a typical furnace that's like just getting hot by having electricity run through, like, you know, metal or other materials, and it gets hot because it is generating resistance of electric current. And this is just a preheat stage, so that way his conductive electronic furnace that works with like magnet frequency does not have to work as hard. And also, it is more gentle doing it this way, so his expensive crucibles from China are not going to blow up.
All right, the moment has arrived.
Also, his water cooler pissed itself,
not
too.
getting heated at the moment, so I can't yap for too long. Let's get this cranking. This is on a different circuit to here. I was going to use that thermometer probe, but thank you. If you've already noticed, the issue is the fact that that's metal. It's obviously a metal probe, so if I put that into the induction coils, it will melt the probe, so I can't use that probe. Thank you if you've already commented or you were screaming at your television.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I did realize that.
I don't think there was any other way to
so the carbon is obviously ashing.
couldn't measure the temperature otherwise.
Lower, you know,
had to use infrared
degrees,
only.
which it got preheated at. This is really the challenge, I think, because if the hot carbon interacts with the air, it's going to burn, but can't just seal it all completely shut, because when it reacts with the silicon dioxide, it produces carbon monoxide. So we also have to let it out gas as well. So we need to sort of seal it, but not too much. I mean, we don't mind if some of the carbon
Sounds
burns,
like you need like a cider air bubbler, Tom. Maybe go buy a home brewing kit. Just stick that on top.
How much it burns. I mean, maybe you think, oh, I could get an argon cylinder here and pump in argon as a protective gas, and maybe we'll try it in future runs if this doesn't work. But I worry that like pushing in a gas will like make it all turbulent and maybe give it more oxygen by mixing with the air anyway. And also we run the risk of, if I turn the argon up slightly too much, it's going to like blow all the powder out, and if I get a big cloud of superheated carbon, that would be
be good for your lungs.
a real nightmare scenario. So we're going to try a real basic approach here, which is just getting some fire brick lid here, going over the top and cranking it. Hopefully it's that carbon down the bottom that's spilled out of the inner crucible.
Love cranking my hog on a Thursday night, and by my hog I mean my silicon carbide.
Mixed down the bottom of that inner crucible, doesn't really interact with the air, and we'll be heating it so rapidly, so quickly that hopefully it doesn't interact with the air. Anyway, these are all hypotheticals. Let's put it to practice. All right, water's still flowing nicely. Let's get this baddie on. 3,000. Let's try 3,000. Oh, I hate the lid. I can't see what the fuck's going on. All right, straight away I'm removing the lid. I'm just going to see if it's heating up. Ah, these are shit tongs. Can we see in with that camera?
Yes, the kitchen tongs, much better.
Water temperature is 21. Lid on for a sec.
Well, yeah, it's not going to look hot, Tom. You specifically chose things that are not conductive.
So I'm just going to give it a quick break from heating
for this reason. You have to look inside of the mini crucible with your reagents in there to see if they're hot.
Let's try it again. I pushed the crucible further down. I guess maybe it wasn't in the coils properly. And let's just go all the way to 5,000. That's not very hot at all, is it? 100 degrees. Do that on my kitchen stove.
Yeah, Tom.
Alright, crucible's down the bottom now. It's also raining, which is great. The cooling water's cooled down a little bit. Let's just give this one more shot. I want to see this actually heat up, you know?
I mean, yeah, you're gonna have some radiative heat from, like... Okay, so for anyone who just joined, the context is that, like, he specifically chose the crucibles, the holding vessels he did, because they are not conductive, they're not conductive to electricity. Which is how this furnace works, by creating electricity currents, known as eddy currents, within the material, makes it hot. But his vessels are not going to get hot because he doesn't want the vessels to get hot. Instead, he's relying on the carbon in the reaction here, this 2 carbon equivalents in the reaction here, to be conductive, because graphite, like that carbon, is conductive to electricity, and so it should also heat up by, this method of how this heater works. But, like, if you specifically chose your vessels to not be conductive to electricity, why would you expect them to be getting very hot? You'd expect some heat from, like, the primary vessels, just having some heat conductivity from the very hot carbon inside, but it's not all going to get hot. I don't understand his logic here. Maybe I'm just, underestimating the radiative heat of something that should be hitting 1700 degrees Celsius. But I don't feel like everything else is meant to get very hot, because it's not meant to be very conductive to heat anyways, or electricity. But I don't know. Maybe there is a design flaw that I'm not seeing. There is like 17 minutes left of the video after all.
Actually heat up, Alright, it's really not heating up. I feel like I've fundamentally misunderstood something here. Unless I've burnt off all the carbon, but the stuff's already black. The stuff is black. Alright, I've just put in some fresh carbon and silicon dioxide mix.
Just fucking pile it on there, dude.
Nice. Burnt off all the carbon. I know. I've just had a horrifying realization why this might not be working. I think I've missed something fundamental. Oh no. Oh no.
Uh-oh, the science is bad.
No. I've spent months on this, and I've missed something fundamental. Oh no.
Are the fish pellets not conductive?
Oh, no. It's just carbon. It's not conductive. Of course it's not graphite. It's not going to be conductive unless it's specifically graphite. And this is just
oh no.
amorphous carbon.
Yep. Okay, so my explanation earlier kind of held a little bit of water. I did a quick throw up graphic of like graphite versus diamond, where it's like, yeah, the graphite is conductive because graphite has these p orbitals in like the z-axis of this otherwise xy axis carbon system, and the electrons can freely move between all of these p orbitals with a little bit of applied voltage. But in something like diamond, the orbitals are instead busy making the bonds between all the carbons in all the directions. So like something like diamond is not conductive. Similarly, amorphous carbon, which is basically just diamond, but like you still have 4 connection points to different carbons, but like they are kind of arranged in weird random orders without a very strong sense of direction. That's also not going to be conductive because, again, your orbitals are going to be busy bonding to each other. Let me write down amorphous. So yeah, I guess whatever the activated carbon fish pellets that he bought, that's not graphite. It's amorphous carbon instead. Oops, should have just ground up some pencils, Tom. I guess that's probably what he's going to do next, is buy some pencil lead.
I can't believe I've done this. I can't believe I've done this.
Well, hey, at least your reagents were cheap, Tom. You sourced your silicon dioxide from kitty litter and your carbon from aquatic fish pellets. You just go out, grind some more grind some more kitty litter, and combine that with ground pencil shavings. It'll probably be okay. Oh, look, bird. It has feathers. Very defensive of its children.
Graphite. All right, this is a bag of graphite. It cost me $10, and maybe it was cheaper than the activated
It was
carbon.
cheaper.
But we have graphite now. We've got powdered graphite. It's a nice fine powder. Cost us 2 weeks. I had to wait 2 weeks for this thing to show up from Alpha Ingredients. Oh, hell yeah. Alpha Ingredients.
Again,
yeah,
shocking you didn't just go buy pencil lead for mechanical pencils.
Sure, but it does mean that the birds are left. Kind of sad to see them go. I mean, I'm proud of them. You know, I miss them, but you know, I got to remember that they didn't really like me. You know, they don't enjoy my company. So I'm sure they're pleased to be away from me and my goddamn yapping and complaining. Anyway, graphite. Look, we've loaded some here in one of these cheap alumina crucibles. Is it conductive? Get me probes out. Probes in.
And yay, it's working. Sort of.
It's basically there. Fantastic. All right. It's conductive, so it should definitely heat in the induction furnace. But we've got some in this cheap crucible, so let's just put it in the induction furnace. Just do some obvious things.
Just test the theory before mixing in kitty litter.
Which it better. Then we can mix this with our silicon dioxide that we made previously. We've still got a lot left over. And then try out heating the mixture again. Let's get this done. The birds have left, so we're behind schedule. Let's go.
I guess part of my question is, once the reaction actually starts happening and there's just less carbon. I mean, I guess he is adding a little excess of carbon, but I feel like you just have less carbon because you have less reaction going on, or you've had all your reaction going on. The heating is going to get much more inefficient the longer the reaction goes for, so I hope that doesn't cause too many problems. Yeah, I mean, graphite's not the best conductor of electricity. It's not metal, so it would take some time.
It should be getting way hotter. I think, again, I've fundamentally misunderstood something about how this works. Because why is this not getting that hot? It's graphite.
Yeah, but graphite's like a two-dimensional material. Like, it's not like a three-dimensional kind of...
Does a current, like, run in a circle or something? And you know, having it in the middle doesn't work? Maybe? It's too low? Does it need to be higher? It's on maximum. The crucible would be getting red hot right now.
I mean, if you have larger plates of graphite, it's going to conduct better because it has like just more space to like work around with.
The graphite in the crucible does not heat up in the furnace. Well, it heats up very slightly, but only to like 200 degrees or so, which is so far short of what we're expecting it to, and so far short of what a graphite crucible heats up. I don't know if there's something wrong with the geometry of having a little vial of powder in there, as opposed to having like, you know, this ring of graphite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the fact the graphite crucible is very conductive because it's bulk graphite, and therefore you get better conductivity with something like graphite when you know, graphite being a non-metal material. You get better conductivity when you have like a very large like plate of graphite to work with and to conduct with, because you get these, as kind of mentioned before, you'll have these conduction bands kind of be much more well-defined rather than as individual orbitals that have a pretty wide gap between them. So, when you have big bulk graphite as a big bulk crucible, that will conduct the electricity better. When you have small pieces of graphite, like kind of what I've drawn here, it's not going to conduct the electricity very well. The band gap for this kind of conduction model is going to end up being larger than like the band gap that would be here in the actual bulk material. So yeah, you're not going to get as efficient heating as a result.
The whole coils.
Once it's powdered,
probably just because
not that efficient.
Powdered graphite is just not conductive enough when it's in that fine powder to really get a lot of heating from the coils, because you know it needs that electrical conductivity to make the eddy currents to make the heat. But you know, even if I didn't think it was like the bulk powder, maybe doesn't have a great conductivity, but each flake of graphite surely is conductive enough to get enough heating, and then you're heating each individual particle. But if we're struggling to make the pure graphite slightly warm, then we're going to have no luck with the graphite mixed with incredible insulator silicon dioxide. That's going to be way less conductive than the pure graphite, so that's going to heat up even less. So we're not even going to be able to heat that mixture at all.
This is a conundrum, though. I don't know how he fixes this.
Anyway, we're pivoting.
Maybe he adds like a metal or something on the outside,
I've got a small graphite crucible.
Oh, okay.
I guess in the end of it, we can just heat it in a graphite crucible. All the heat's going to be dumped into the crucible, so I don't know if the insides are going to get as hot. But being a smaller crucible, hopefully we can still dump the 5 kilowatts bits into this, and this can heat up the insides. And I suppose, you know, the graphite from the
All right.
crucible is going to also
that
react
works.
with, you know, the silicon dioxide or whatever. But we'll just smash.
He's using the crucible as a reagent now.
Temperatures, but at least we'll get it hot. Unlike this, it's just wasting my time. I guess I just don't quite understand how this machine works. But anyway, before I fill this with graphite powder or with our mixture, let's put it in here and see if this furnace gets this hot. Because I don't know, maybe this is broken in the last couple of weeks while I've been waiting for crucibles that I'm not even going to use. If anything else in this video breaks, I'm just ending this video.
It's no longer this.
No more equipment repairs in this video. If it breaks,
now we're using and it's kind of not this.
Let's try it out. You got
2 carbon, and it's going to be a carbon vessel.
The water temperature is 20 degrees. Turning on the furnace. On the heating. Turn it to 4 kilowatts. Yeah, see, it's so hot. It's hot already. It's already at 300 degrees. Yeah, all right. This is better. Okay, now we're cooking.
Now you're cooking with graphite.
In a matter of seconds, I think. Yeah, look at that. See? That's fantastic. See, that's hot. That's hot.
Red in 40 seconds. Look at that shit. That is actually pretty cool.
Probably got to, 800 degrees in, what, 20 seconds, 30 seconds? Yeah, but, I leave the graphite powder heating for 5 minutes and it doesn't even break 200, so, I don't know.
Physics.
All right, so
not just chemistry.
Crucible definitely gets pretty hot, so let's just load our powder into there. We'll do a little bit of preheating just to dry it out, but we don't need to worry about too much preheating because the graphite crucible's not going to shatter. So let's load our powder in and let's get it hot. Let's just get this hot.
What I'm kind of surprised he's not doing is like still using his zirconia crucible and like just loading that up and putting that in the graphite crucible, letting the graphite crucible get hot and conduct heat into the zirconia crucible, so that way he can still have like a controlled separate reaction vessel that is not going to eat at the graphite crucible. But I guess he's just gonna say fuck it, the graphite crucible, just let it get eaten up, and as long as the reaction works. Ooh, wow, yellow hot, goddamn. Now white hot. That hot. Ah, that's hot. That's hot.
It's reasonably hot. Glad I got the glasses on. Got better glasses on this time.
The glasses of a mad scientist.
That's hot. That's pretty hot.
He's finally got the aesthetic perfect.
In there. Oh, that's getting hot. That's getting hot. It is working though, I think. I'm optimistic. The temperature's reading at 32 degrees on the cooling water, but it's just this one return line that's not doing so good. It is blowing, there's just a lot of heat internally.
I mean, you could basically just have these lines running through like an ice bath. That would probably help things out.
Tube's getting all floppy. Give it another break. Okay, it's been off for about 15 minutes now.
Surprised he hasn't thought of that. Like, it's a pretty easy thing to do.
It'll be completely room temperature, but let's get it out and let's have a look to see if the material inside has changed at all. I think it's probably going to need a couple of heating cycles, and maybe it needs to be compressed down because I didn't really tamp it down or compress it down before this heating cycle. Let the gas escape and let it off gas. But now maybe if we form some silicon carbide and we compress it down and reheat it, it might start to fuse some of it together. Anyway, let's get it out and have a look. All right, our outer crucible cracked.
Lovely. Oh, that's $200 down the drain.
But it's fine. There's certainly less powder in there. Let's tamp it down and then blast it.
Yeah, that's the attitude we're looking for. Blasting, explosions, fire.
Oh, even the outside's glowing.
That's a concerning sign.
Probably. Yeah. Looking good. All right, It's going well, but the induction furnace is just getting really hot everywhere and the cooling water, but I don't want this stuff to cool down internally too much. So this furnace is heated to 1,100 degrees, so I'm just going to move crucible into here, give this 10 minutes to relax, and then move our 1,000 degree crucible back in and then keep heating it. That's my plan.
I would never generate anything this hot in my own home, or even near my own home like this. This is just asking for a trip to the burn board.
Broken bit. Alright, I'll go keep this one hot. Whoa.
Don't drop it. I'm surprised how the comedic timing is actually had in this video. It didn't just crack right in his hands there.
Alright.
Seems like the thing that would have happened.
Now let's get it heated.
Alright, it's putting off steam. Steam from the steamed hams.
Get it much hotter than that. That's
It doesn't even seem like he's been measuring it. I mean, maybe he still has his UV thermometer with him somewhere, but
yeah, it's probably about as hot as it's gonna get. All right, I think we're pretty much at its limit. All the bubbles in here are, you know, when the water's starting to boil internally.
yeah, it's not a good sign.
I think with better plumbing, we could definitely rectify this, but still, it must be getting pretty hot internally. I think we've reached really the limit of what we can do here. You can see the outer crucible kind of glowing as well. So this furnace is pretty damaged from going up to 1,100. 1,150 is its maximum, actually. That's what I set it to. So it's the paint and everything is starting to flake off when it's at its maximum. You can see it's really tarnished a lot. So we haven't managed to do it now, then I don't think we'll manage to do it with this setup as it currently is. So I'm going to stop and let it cool
Alright,
down,
well,
and then
moment of truth. We have
maybe have a look at it under the microscope if we can't
cool
see
silicon
anything
carbide that
going
you can
on.
actually
I'm not
see
missing them. It looks pretty hot.
ionize and
Pretty hot
form an
for,
LED kind of
good
material.
10, 20 minutes now, and 20 minutes earlier before we kind of compressed it down. So I hope we have some silicon carbide. This will make it all worthwhile if we can see some silicon carbide. That'll be excellent. Hopefully we can.
It won't be immediately obvious considering it is also a gray powder in itself, so it's not going to be obvious the difference between it and carbon.
Sparkly, honestly. There's certainly some sparkle in there.
Sparkling is a good sign, though.
Before. There are these little bits of molten mass within this. I don't think they're silicon carbide. The only thing I can think they could be is melted silicon dioxide that's congealed together, and if that's
melted
the case,
silicon
we
itself.
definitely got to around 1,700 degrees, because that's what you need to melt silicon dioxide. So this could be silicon carbide itself.
You'd remove it.
See this bowl here? It feels like a bit of molten metal or something, but it's not. It's very light, so it must be molten oxide. That's so cool. Okay, so it's not the most convincing of end products, I gotta say. I really enjoy the sparkle. Have a look at the sparkle. How good is the sparkle? You're actually fusing the silicon carbide into big enough crystals to test for their LED properties. I think we're a long way short of that still. We really tried. We really tried. If nothing else for this project, you gotta give me points for trying.
I mean, you could have mixed it around more while it was heating.
Despite everything, I still kind of
Solid mixes need a lot of heat, or
or
need a lot of motion to actually get these particles in contact with each other. But alright, okay. Not the most explosion-y or fiery video of Mr. Explosions and Fire, but I guess that's why it's on his second channel rather than his main channel. But, I don't know, still fairly interesting, and, no, I mean, granted, his silicon carbide sample's not as good as mine, but I didn't make mine, so I have to give him credit for that. Alright, with that, we can give our second video of the night a shot. So we have something from the United States Chemical Safety Board again. This is on low pressure, fatal consequences, explosion at Yankin Majestic. Someone's yanking my Majestic over here. Yeah, now we should actually see some animated fires and explosions. This is guaranteed. That's why I wanted this to be at the end rather than at the beginning. We can end on a high note, and we can watch me complain about safety deficiencies that management just decided was not important to fix for some monetary reason. So yeah, let's go. The only part of the government I still like, the United States Chemical Safety Board.
April 8th, 2021. The Yankin Majestic Paint Corporation plant.
Okay, so 4 years
ago.
Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. Hey, I've been there.
Manway of an operating reactor failed. The failure occurred at an internal pressure that the company believed the equipment could
he's dead.
Contain.
That guy's dead.
The new manway was not designed to contain that pressure, and the equipment was not adequately pressure tested before it was put into service. As a result, pressurized solvent vapors and hot resin liquid escaped through the closed manway, and a flammable vapor cloud quickly spread throughout the facility.
For y'all.
Within 2 minutes, the vapor cloud found an ignition source, causing a massive explosion and fire. The incident fatally injured one worker,
yeah. Solvent clouds do that to you.
8, and caused over $90 million in property damage.
The CSB's investigation determined that Yankin Majestic failed to ensure the mechanical integrity of the newly installed manway, which was not adequately designed, constructed, or pressure tested. The company also lacked engineering controls that could have prevented the incident. And
manway is a
not
very
have
funny
emergency response
name
preparations
for
in place. The
piece of
result was a
industrial
tragic
equipment.
accident that could
Makes
have
me think
been
of SpongeBob
prevented.
fighting Man Ray with the Orb of Confusion. Which, honestly, this big solvent cloud is kind of an Orb of Confusion in and of itself. So, it's not unrelated.
Paint Corporation is a coatings and resin manufacturer located in Columbus, Ohio. The resin plant was comprised of an enclosed building that housed 6 reactors called kettles. The kettles were located in separate rooms within the production building and were used to produce various resins in batch reactions.
They were located in six kettles were located in separate rooms, all with a eerily stock checkerboard grid pattern in the background.
Each batch reaction, ingredients were added to the vessels and stirred by an agitator. The resin ingredients were also heated,
delicious.
sometimes by furnaces located directly underneath the kettles. Toward the end of each batch operation, a kettle operator would analyze samples of resin to determine if the reaction was complete. On the evening of April 7th, 2021, one of the kettles, called Kettle 3, was being used for a batch operation which had proceeded normally, and the resin production was nearly complete. At 10:22 p.m., Kettle 3's operator was in the laboratory testing a sample of resin when the kettle's agitator unexpectedly shut down.
Uh-oh.
A few minutes later, the operator returned to the kettle room but did not realize the agitator had stopped, and no audible alarms alerted him to the issue.
So that's going to be a problem.
This time, the temperature within the kettle was 455 degrees Fahrenheit.
Because now the stuff at the bottom is going to get heated.
The agitator was still on.
Because the stuff at the bottom is going to get heated really high, and it's not going to be mixed, so the temperature is not going to be spread well throughout the resin body. Instead, it's just going to focus at the bottom, and it sounds like we're probably going to get some boiling happening. And when we get boiling, we get pressure buildup. And pressure buildup, we get an explosion.
The operator began the next steps in the batch operation. These steps, which included adding solvent to the kettle, were intended to begin cooling the contents of the reactor. The solvent, called Varnish Makers and Painters Naphtha, is a highly flammable liquid.
It's also, I would draw the structure here normally, but naphtha is an industry term for basically many different hydrocarbons you can get out of oil refinery. So this could contain basically just various, like, I don't know, hexanes, contain, like, I mean, just, like, whatever the fuck. it's really just like whatever the fuck anes are in here. Just long hydrocarbon chains, maybe a couple like maybe a couple hexagonal things like naphthalene, the chemical which kind of loans its name out to naphtha. If I could just draw a hexagon well real quick. Yeah, there we go. Naphthalene, always a terrible one to spell. So yeah, naphtha is just kind of a mixture of like a lot of this shit. So it's a little bit hard to describe what exactly it is.
Over a period of 26 minutes, approximately 300 gallons of flammable solvent flowed into the kettle.
Yes, but it's not mixing with the resin.
Was not operating, the solvent did not mix with the resin as planned.
Hey, I just said that.
Unknown to the operator, the solvent formed a liquid layer on top of the hot resin. Around midnight on April 8th, the temperature within the kettle was recorded at 424 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately 100 degrees higher than it should have been after 90 minutes of cooling. At this point, the operator realized something was wrong and began to investigate the potential cause.
This manway looks funny.
He discovered that the agitator was off and turned it back on.
Oh, it's not a bad idea.
When the agitator began mixing the hot resin with the liquid solvent layer, the liquid solvent suddenly vaporized.
Oh, that's bad.
The pressure within the kettle increased rapidly, from about 0 to 9 psig in a matter of seconds.
I'm guessing it probably, even though there's a normal process that gets, that's urine, delicious. No, not urine and not delicious. I'm guessing the reason that even though when they normally add this solvent naphtha mixture in to cool it down, it doesn't create a big pressure burst like this, but in this situation it did create one, is because of what I was talking about earlier, where the resin is still being heated this entire time, and without mixing, it's not actually distributing that much. So the resin has just managed to get hotter and hotter and hotter over this time. So this procedure ended up having more heat than it usually does, and that caused the solvent cloud to just absolutely go up in, well, not quite smoke, but, you know, steam, but not quite steam, solvent vapors. Making any sense?
The closed manway on the top of the kettle could not contain the pressure. Suddenly, a mixture of hot resin liquid and flammable solvent vapor.
Oh, you'll get to the burn soon enough.
Around the manway's lid and sprayed the operator.
So he's choking.
Within moments, the entire kettle room filled with thick white vapor.
Also, again, gotta say, animation quality on this is choice as hell. It's like so good still. Like you can even see the solvent vapors like spraying out as like discrete liquid streams going onto the ground, like floating across the ground as they kind of evaporate, but like slowly forming a pool. Like this is really, really good animation.
Reverse his actions and turn off the agitator, but he could not see through the thick vapor cloud and was having trouble breathing. About 20 seconds into the release, he abandoned the room and with the help of another employee,
yeah, good choice.
Escaped the facility.
Get the hell out of there.
The release continued, and a low-lying
You're not paid enough for this.
Flammable solvent vapors flowed into the adjacent areas of the plant. On the ground floor, multiple flammable gas detectors inside the building detected the cloud, but none were configured to sound an audible alarm. And
fucking course, none of the alarms work. Why do we even have these things if none of the alarms actually do anything?
No employees used the intercom system or activated the fire alarm to alert workers on site to evacuate.
Again, why do we even have the manual alarms if we're not going to use them?
Many of the employees in or near the resin plant were unaware of the dangerous situation unfolding around them. One employee who saw the gas cloud believed it was a steam leak and ran into the building to investigate.
And
but by the time
pass
he
the
saw
fuck
the
out.
vapors pouring out of the Kettle 3 operating area, it was too late to evacuate everyone in time. At 12:04 a.m., approximately 2 minutes after the release began, the flammable vapors found an ignition source and exploded, severely damaging the resin plant. The huge explosion shook nearby homes and was seen over 2 miles away. The explosion ignited additional flammable material at the plant, causing a large fire that burned for 11 hours.
Yeah.
Some employees of the resin plant had to
a
evacuate
lot of
the building
solvent.
by running through flames. 3 employees were reported as missing. 2 of those employees were found trapped in the damaged building and were rescued by firefighters. Later that morning, the third
at least not everyone
employee
died.
was
That's
found
nice.
partially covered by rubble from the explosion. He had been fatally injured in the incident.
Well,
A total of 8 employees were transported to area hospitals for treatment of injuries, including burn injuries, a leg amputation, and other trauma from the explosion and building collapse.
I get somewhat fun fact. I actually, they said this event took place in 2021 Columbus. I was in Columbus. I was completing my master's degree at the time. I guess I just never heard of this because it was a little bit further away from, where I was studying. So that's probably the closest I've ever been to one of these events actually taking place.
The U.S. Chemical Safety Board launched an investigation and
promise it
identified
wasn't
3
me.
safety issues
I didn't cause
that
this.
led to the fatal incident at Yenkin Majestic.
Okay,
They
so
are
3 key
mechanical
safety issues.
integrity-
Hey, I meant to pause things. Okay, so yeah, the 3 that we're gonna see is 1, the mechanical integrity. Yeah, there wasn't any actual testing of that manway or other pieces of the vessel to make sure that it would withstand not only expected operational pressures, but potentially anticipable, if that's a word, pressures from malfunctioning equipment or a process gone wrong. Whenever you engineer something, you want to be like, okay, we want to be like at least like twice the expected number that we're at, and then add on another like 50 to 100% in case of something going really wrong. So that way it's like, well, if we expect a pressure of like 5 psig in our reactor at most, we want our thing to be rated for 10 to just account for that going potentially wrong. And then a catastrophically wrong situation, let's go up to at least 15. But it doesn't seem like the plant here actually bothered to do that. The other key safety issues is 1, no alarms just don't fucking work here. They might as well not exist because nobody bothered to test them or set them up and make sure they actually function. And like, it'd be understandable if they were installed and then just like, I don't know, not used. But like, if they're, it's just is baffling to where it's like they're installed and not tested regularly at all to make sure that they work. Like, you're just waiting for them to hopefully work during an emergency situation. That's just not a good idea. And then what would be a third key safety issue that could have prevented this? I mean, better ventilation wouldn't have really helped. The alarm for like there was no alarm for like the resin stirring process, like not for that going wrong. That could have prevented all this from happening. There wasn't, the operator's panel didn't really communicate that very well. Yeah, and I mean, there wasn't any other, I mean, it's a minor point, but there was no other good way to like capture solvent vapors and make sure that they don't get directed just out to the entire plant. And maybe there would have been a way to have that, like a runoff capture kind of system to prevent a big explosion like this from happening. But let's see what the other safety issues they found are, and if I'm right.
Low-pressure vessels, safeguard selection, and the hierarchy of controls.
Okay, well, that's sort of what I described.
Preparedness.
Okay, and then everyone was fucked. So we knew that. I got that one kind of right.
Is mechanical integrity of low-pressure vessels. In January 2021, 3 months before the incident, Yenkin Majestic installed a new 20-inch manway onto Kettle 3. Kettle 3 was considered by Yenkin Majestic to operate at atmospheric conditions, but was documented to have a maximum operating pressure of 12 psig.
Yeah, that's not atmospheric
When the manway
conditions.
was designed, no calculations or analyses were performed to ensure the manway's lid could contain all anticipated pressure.
Not related, but I do also love that we have a very accurate eye wash over here. And I say very accurate because if you might notice, you have the actual eye wash part here in orange where the water is coming out. And then where does it drain? Oh, just right onto the fucking floor. That's where the drain pipe goes, right onto the floor. No actual drain for this to make sure it's not splashing all over your feet. Just, great plumbing. It's very realistic. And I'm not ironic when I say that. It is realistic, sadly, but it is painfully so. Yeah.
After the new manway was added, it began leaking soon after Kettle 3 began processing its first batch.
Well, then why
In
didn't they
response,
stop using
Yank
it?
and Majestic shut down the kettle and installed a thicker gasket.
Oh, great.
The company then performed a leak check to test the integrity of the manway lid up to only 4 psig of internal pressure. 4 psig was the pressure that triggered the kettle's emergency cooling interlock and alarm. The manway passed that leak check, and satisfied with the results, Yank and Majestic returned the kettle to service.
So they figured that if it could withstand the pressure where the other cooling alarms and auto stirring stop feature would kick in, that they could just leave it, the pressure, the one thing that would hold the pressure back at that. Not considering the fact that the pressure would probably continue to rise in such a situation where that actually gets triggered. That's dumb. Good job, Yank and Majestic.
But Yank and Majestic never tested whether the new manway could contain all anticipated pressures, such as the documented 12 psig maximum operating pressure. And on the day of the incident, approximately 3 months later, the manway failed at just 9 psig.
Facilities should ensure
Lazy,
that equipment
lazy,
can
lazy.
safely
Sloppy
operate
work.
within their documented operating limits. For example, after equipment alterations, facilities should ensure that the equipment can still safely operate under normal conditions, as well as abnormal and emergency conditions.
Abnormal conditions, yup.
In this case,
that's important.
had Yankee Majestic pressure tested the kettle, at least up to its documented pressure relief device setting,
Abnormal conditions are still
it could have
anticipable.
identified that the manway could not hold pressure exceeding 9 psig. This could have led to corrective actions that may have prevented the large release from the manway that led to the deadly explosion.
In addition, the CSB notes that pressure vessels that operate over 15 psig are subject to pressure vessel safety codes that require...
That is
for
true. In
example,
my state, there are
hiring a
also
certified repair
similar
organization,
requirements
the
for high pressure
involvement of a
instruments.
qualified pressure
Did they
vessel
follow theirs in their
instructor and
state?
qualified engineer to approve the alteration work, ensuring new designs meet the applicable code, and pressure testing
My
to
guess is that
ensure the
they didn't
components
bother.
are compliant with the construction code. In this case, Yank and Majestic believed that Kettle 3 was exempt from those safety codes because the vessel did not normally operate above 15 psig.
But
As a
it
result, Yank and
could.
Majestic did not conduct safety measures required in the codes that could have prevented the incident. In fact, the CSB found there is very little guidance for the design, construction, and alteration of low-pressure vessels in highly hazardous chemical service like Kettle 3.
Yeah, fair enough.
More specific
I guess they didn't
guidance
have to
could
do it,
have
but
directed Yank and
if they
Majestic
did do these
and
things,
its
it would have
contractors
made
to use
better equipment.
appropriate design, installation, and testing practices for the addition of the new manway on Kettle 3, which might have prevented the incident.
Although industry codes and standards currently exempt pressure vessels not exceeding 15 psig, this incident shows that vessels that have the potential to build any pressure above atmospheric
Yeah, I mean,
may
any
still have safety
non-atmospheric
implications for
pressure is
personnel
still
in the vicinity,
dangerous. I mean, it's
especially
low
when the
relative
vessels are in
to
highly hazardous chemical service.
some other industrial processes,
As a
but
result,
it's not low
CSB
compared to what
made
we live around.
recommendations to the American Petroleum Institute and the American Society of Mechanical Engineers to develop specific design, construction, and alteration guidance for low-pressure process vessels. in
Yeah, they're not gonna
flammable
bother
and
with
other
that
highly
suggestion.
hazardous chemical service.
Only a regulation
The
would
second
actually
safety
stop
issue
them.
identified by the CSB is
Make them
safeguard
change.
selection and the hierarchy of controls. The hierarchy of controls
Some good
is
drone
a
footage
risk
they got too.
management
It's high
principle
quality.
based on ranking hazard controls from the most effective to the least effective. For example, engineering controls, which reduce hazards through equipment modifications and safety devices, are more effective than administrative controls like procedures, training, and warning.
Yep, this is something we teach all the grad students over at my university, that PPE is the least effective thing. Then you can change your behavior, which is more effective than that. You could have a piece of equipment, one that's always there, doesn't require you behaving in a certain way, that will help protect you, and that's more effective than changing your behavior and wearing your PPE, but you should still do all three of them. And then, you know what else is even safer than doing, than having a big engineering control like a fume hood to help preserve your health? Why don't you use something less toxic or less explosive or less flammable? If you can substitute and the hazard, make it, you know, less likely to be a problem, then the problem's not going to be as bad. You won't even have as much of a problem to plan for. And then, even furthermore, the most effective, eliminate the hazard entirely. Do you need this flammable thing? Can you substitute it with something not flammable? Great. It's even better. The best PPE is the PPE inside of you? I'm not so sure about that one. I think that that's doing negative work at that point. It's probably making you uncomfortable and not protecting you from whatever, you know, is spraying in your direction. But, you know, maybe the administrative controls and the work practices is the PPE we made inside us along the way. Welcome, Super Nerd. Nice to see you here for a chemistry stream.
Warnings. Administrative controls are inherently less reliable.
I don't know how long you've been here, but we're investigating a big old solvent leak that happened due to poor vessel design and caused a big old fire and big old explosion. I don't know if they're gonna show it in the video again. Doesn't seem like it. Here, I'll give you the money shot. You can take a look at it real quick.
Approximately 2 minutes after the release began, the flammable vapors found an ignition source and exploded.
Yeah, there you go.
Damaging the
explosion.
plant. The huge explosion shook nearby homes and was seen over 2 miles away. The explosion ignited additional flammable material at the plant.
There you go. Fortunately, a couple people perished because of all this. It's an unfortunate reality of how cool these videos are. Michael Bay moment, yeah, but just IRL. Damned Fireman. Fireman didn't have anything to do with this. Solvent Man is to blame, and Pressure Man as well.
Then administrative controls like procedures, training, and warnings. Administrative controls are inherently less reliable because they depend on human actions to be effective.
And a lot of the time, people just say, it's not that important.
Some engineering controls to Kettle 3 in the form of several safety interlocks. For example, one interlock prevented the furnace from starting if the agitator was off.
That's good.
But Majestic
so it wasn't actually heating while it wasn't going out.
To prevent the addition of solvent to the kettle while the agitator was off. And Yenkin Majestic relied on the kettle operator.
Yeah, that's true. That's how we got a big solvent pile at the top that went vaporous.
Panel status indicators and observation of the kettle equipment, not an audible alarm. Therefore, the operator was able to add solvent to the kettle while unknown to him, the agitator was off. And when he later discovered that the agitator was off and turned it back on, this step ultimately led to the vaporization of the solvent, its release, and the subsequent fatal explosion.
Well, knowing that the heater wasn't on that whole time while the agitator wasn't going, that's actually more surprising than that the solvent vapor just went up in vapors like that all of a sudden, at least to me, because that would imply that, well, the resin was cooler than it normally was at this point during the process, at least by a little bit. So why the rapid boiling all of a sudden? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just physics enough that it's outside of my realm of knowledge, but the only thing I could think of is maybe just that, like, the small amounts of solvent vapors are meant to kind of either incorporate into the resin as it cools down normally while it's stirring, or it has like a small place to escape from otherwise that won't get overloaded. But when you have all of the vapor at once, I guess it overloads things. Huh. Wouldn't have thought that way.
Facilities should use the hierarchy of controls to design and maintain fault-tolerant systems so that a single human action, such as turning on an agitator, cannot set off
Right.
an irreversible
You need to set up
chain
your
of events
system so
that
that
leads
way
to a catastrophic incident
a
and loss
few
of life.
human fuck-ups can
As
be
a
accounted
result,
for.
the CSB made a
Not just one.
recommendation to Yenkin Majestic to demonstrate the use of prevention through design, using the hierarchy of controls in future resin plant designs. Specifically, prioritize inherently safer design and engineering controls to prevent process safety events. Finally, the third safety issue found by the CSB is emergency preparedness.
All right, we're going to talk about the alarms that don't do
found
nothing.
that Yenkin Majestic did not have adequate safeguards in place to minimize the consequences of the incident. During
Consequences
the
of your
incident,
actions.
gas monitors near Kettle 3 detected the flammable vapors about 1 minute after the release began. In response, the system automatically shut down the furnaces in that area and sent an email alerting an off-site employee.
Okay. Oh my god, that's serious. I'm sorry for laughing, but like, holy shit. The alarm does two things. Or the gas detection does two things. It turns off the heat to the furnace, which I guess is good. Maybe eliminates a point of ignition. But then it also sends an email to one person who's working off-site. That is effectively nothing. If it automatically sent like a call or something like that, something that would like jolt somebody awake, that wouldn't get lost in the noise of like all the other shit that's in their inbox, that's probably not that important, then you could maybe do something with it. And better yet, why don't you have it forward to somebody who's actually there and can do something about the problem, rather than some random motherfucker who's sitting back at probably their home or at this point, like, 9 p.m. with their family, because they don't have to be on site. They're just managing things. That is useless. That is so useless. And it doesn't even turn on the alarm for people nearby. Good God, that is a horrid system. That gives nobody anything to work with. I would be livid if I saw that was like the system in place, like at a given spot of my university. That's unacceptable.
But the gas monitors did not sound audible alarms to warn on-site employees of the hazard and the need to evacuate. Additionally, Yenkin Majestic did not specifically train its employees to recognize and respond to the hazard of a flammable vapor cloud. This overall lack...
So nobody ever got trained on the fact they're actually working with solvents, and that, they're not just flammable as liquids, guys. Don't smoke near them. It's also, hey, you could have a flammable vapor cloud. It's almost like it's one of the most common fucking sources of, like, industrial accidents and explosions. It's not like they needed to know about that.
Of hazard recognition led to some personnel approaching the hazardous gas to investigate.
Oh yeah, and this guy's like, oh, this steam smells funny.
Initiating a plant-wide evacuation. Lastly, Yenkin Majestic allowed operators in the resin plant to wear cotton short-sleeve shirts while working in proximity to flammable materials, unless they were performing specific tasks.
Great.
Had the resin plant employees been required to wear flame-resistant personal protective equipment, multiple employees' burn injuries may have been reduced or prevented.
Fair. Better PPE and lab coats would not have prevented the explosion, but I guess it probably would have prevented as serious of burns. That's a fair point.
Better emergency response preparations, such as flammable gas detectors that trigger audible alarms, increased training of operators on potential hazards, and adequate personal protective gear could have reduced the severity of this incident. Instead, employees at the resin plant were largely unaware and unprepared for the incident, resulting in multiple employee injuries and one fatality.
Finally, the CSB made recommendations to Yenkin Majestic to install flammable gas detectors that trigger both visual and audible alarms to alert plant personnel.
Yep, make your gas detectors actually do something for people around them.
Requirements for personnel to wear flame-resistant uniforms in all operating areas that process flammable chemicals.
Oh shit, that's the real explosion. Damn.
The CSB calls on operating
Yeah,
facilities
oh my
to
god.
examine the 3 safety issues.
Sorry. Can you imagine what it must have been like to be this guy running away from the explosion that just happened? I mean, that's a shit your pants kind of moment right there. I think that would be something I could never ever live down. Like, he literally runs out from where, like, the fire was, basically. Like, oh my god.
The CSB calls on operating facilities to examine the 3 safety issues identified in our report and apply the key lessons and recommendations to their own facilities. There are thousands of facilities across the country that deal with flammable and other hazardous chemicals at low operating pressures. For them, safe pressure vessel operation, implementation of the hierarchy of controls, and proper emergency response training for personnel are imperative. Thank you for watching this CSB safety video.
For more information, please visit csb.gov.
Well, I think we've all learned something here. In case we ever want to establish a resin factory of our own, actually have alarms that work. Don't cheap out on your pressure testing standards. Make sure that people actually wear good PPE in case of accident. Make sure they're well trained. And most importantly, make sure that your gas detection systems don't just email some random guy off-site and have them maybe handle the accident. Good work as always, USCSB. Glad you're still around, despite all the nonsense. So, I will put on a little bit more music as I run out the clock or as I close things out for the night. Is that the right audio? Move this on to maybe the next. Yeah, that works. Okay, so thank you for joining me today for a two feature special of chemistry reactions. For watching a Australian man try to make silicon carbide at home and kind of get vaguely shiny carbon, and watching a industrial accident analysis video made by the federal government. One of those, and surprisingly, the latter one was maybe a little bit more riveting this time around. So yeah, thanks for entertaining my chemistry nonsense, and hey, thanks for being here, not just for this stream, but for over the last year. This channel has, you know, grown quite a bit since the end of the previous year, where I think I was still wrapping up Make a Good Mega Man level 3, the cool video game. There's a good number of regulars here. There's a good number of people here. It's nice just to have, you know, a good 6 or 7, people that I recognize by name and come and hang out with me no matter what I'm doing. So, yeah, thanks everybody. I can't believe I'll be gone for a whole year. Yeah, I know. I love that joke too. Well, this is a good stream to send things off with, I think, for the rest of the year. But hey, don't fret if you're in the Discord, which, by the way, if you happen to be lurking out there and you're not in the Discord, maybe join. We will be doing, I won't be doing too many things. I want to take a vacation for me over the next 2 weeks. But I do still plan on poking around the Discord server, maybe doing a couple things, maybe another Jackbox game night. We could do one of those. I plan on probably playing X2 and 3 this weekend and practice for an Archipelago event in another server I want to go actually do. And we'll probably have some other miscellaneous gaming things or movie nights or planning, you know, other events and stuff like that. I know I would like to watch the Ruby Spears cartoon at some point in the Discord, so if you're not in the Discord yet, join it. And if you are there, pay attention to what's going on and give yourself roles so that way you can know what's going on. But other than that, yeah. Be sure to like videos and share my content around and comment and hype it and all that stuff so that way I can, you know, keep growing. We're roughly at 180 subs by the end of this and the end of my streaming run this year. Maybe I'll upload another short, light edited video or two to kind of see if I can't just eke my way over to 200 by the end. But I'm not super... I'm a little doubtful on that, but I might as well try and put out more content for y'all. So, yeah, I'm getting rambly, so I think I'll just wrap things up for the night. And again, thank you all for being here, not just for the video, but for all the stuff I've been doing this year. And, you know, we'll rock on in the next year as well. Make 2026 a good one for the streaming, Got more Mega Man games coming up. We got more Doom stuff, Return to Doom, and got other Freedom Planet things to finish up as well. I want to get to Cave Story eventually next year. And also events. I want to do another good music podcast with my friends Rowan and Eris. I want to do the Mega Man Jeopardy thing that Grim had planned so many months ago, but then I got busy starting in October, so I didn't get a chance to really get it all together. So yeah, be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for however much progress I get done with my 3D model over the break, because I'm really going to try to, you know, put the axe to the grindstone on that. And try to deliver for you. So, yeah. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good holiday season. Have a good new year. And I will talk to you when I talk to you, be that in the Discord or the next stream that I have. So, good luck, take care, and have a happy season, holiday season with your family and friends. Good night, everyone.